Good evening. I'm Cynthia Elliott, President of the Rochester Board of Education. We are here tonight for a public hearing of the Code of Conduct, and I will read the statement as follows. The Rochester Board of Education's Code of Conduct, Policy 1400 for the Rochester City School District requires the board to conduct at least one public hearing before the board can vote on any revisions to the policy. The purpose of this hearing is to gather input from district students, parents, staff, and the community regarding the proposed changes to the Code of Conduct. The Rochester City School District strives to provide a safe and productive learning environment that will help students become successful and responsible citizens. Our goal is to ensure that all students have the opportunity to participate fully in their education without disruption. The Code of Conduct is written to promote a positive learning environment for all students. It spells out expectations for the responsible behavior of all partners in the school community, including students, all district staff, in addition to parents, guardians, and visitors to the school. As required, the Code of Conduct Committee, which included district students, parents, staff, and community members, reviewed the policy to provide recommended revisions. These recommended revisions were reviewed by the board's policy committee, chaired by Commissioner Willow Powell and the Superintendent's Executive Cabinet. All information related to the proposed changes to the Code of Conduct can be found in this public hearing agenda on board docs and at www.rcsdk12.org/COC public hearing. That's COC public hearing. We have a number of speakers for this hearing. I'm going to call them up. You have is 3 minutes to speak. And the first speaker, and forgive me if I mispronounce the first name, is Nizar Allah. Nizar Allah. Okay, that person is not here. If he or she happens to come in, we will have that person to speak. Sahira Dillard. Sahira Dillard. Javon Fulton.
Mr. Fulton will not be joining us tonight, President Elliott.
He will not be joining us? All right, thank you. Kimberly Bennett.
Kimberly Bennett is currently not on Zoom present.
All right, thank you. Tammy Williams.
Also not on Zoom present.
Thank you. Teresa Thomas. You could come up to the front to speak. Good evening. No, come over here. There's a microphone. Good evening.
Good evening. So I'm here to address a few things. I have grandchildren that go to the city school district. City school district felt my 24-year-old with this subject, Code of Conduct. So she went to Franklin. One of her teachers finally came, but she was in the 9th grade. But this after she kept getting suspended, but she was getting suspended for skipping. So he's like, oh, he never had the chance to actually do this IEP assessment with her or anything because she was coming to school, skipping, and getting suspended for skipping. So he's like, where does that make any sense at? And so we had got to the bottom of it to where it was like, okay, is the teachers getting funded enough to even care enough? It's like, okay, because she's not like she's this bad student coming into class, disrupting the class. Teachers, you got kids afraid in the schools, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, what do you expect from a teacher that's afraid of a kid this is their neighborhood, this is their community, and if they ring a call, their aunties or cousins is coming up to the school, now you got the teacher afraid. So, you know, but when you have that police presence, and probably more than one, we have to find those dollars to put that. Look, we got running across, and then they talking about barriers. You know, like, we shouldn't have to have barriers. We have to have bodies, you know what I'm saying? Here it is. I'm a licensed guard. I refuse to do work in the city school district. You know why? Because I live in the city, and I don't have time for me to do my job and then worry about the neighborhood kid. Oh, that's the one, you know, you get what I'm saying? So, but if we have officers there and they're understanding, okay, we're not here to harm y'all, we're not here to hurt y'all, we're here to work with your students. We're bringing that community back. We have, you know, and we have to find the funding or something, like something has to give. And that's just one thing that I had came up with this teacher. And mind you, my daughter's 24 now. This was almost 10 years ago. I have her kids that's in the district, but then I have a son that goes to a Brighton district. Totally different. Totally different. So I get to see the comparison in the two. And now I know the demographics is different. That's why I said, yeah, we need more officers in the city, because I was over on Wilson talking with my cousin them about it, and they was like, cuz, yeah, definitely. Because one of my friends is the assistant principal over there, and she's like, we need you as a guard over here at the school. And I'm like, girl, I would never do guard work in the city school district, because who's backing me? So, you know, when it comes to the code of conduct, we need officers. We need real officers. I know there was a pushback because of that officer thing with that kid in DC or whatever, but each neighborhood is different. Each demographic is different. Here in the city of Rochester,
Ms.
if
Williams?
we plan on getting it back, that's what we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ingman Scallon, I think he's on Zoom.
It's coming in on Zoom right now, President.
Mrs. Scanlon, you have 3 minutes. Please begin.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners and Superintendent. My name is Eamon Scanlon. I'm the Education Policy Director at the Children's Agenda, which is a nonprofit organization that advocates for evidence-based policy solutions to the most serious challenges and needs of children. And tonight, I just want to commend the district's efforts to expand restorative practices and the board's support for the Solutions Not Suspensions bill, which is a state bill that is currently being considered by the state legislature in New York. One key component of that bill is to ensure that suspensions are capped at 20 days for a single incident, and that can be superseded by state or federal law if there's some reason that it has to be longer. But I think it'd be very a good step for the district to take to include that in the code of conduct. There's nothing that prohibits the district from making this change to put an absolute cap on suspensions at 20 days for a single incident. And I think that would go a long way in reducing the number of missed days of instruction that its students in RCSD are facing. Right now, despite the great investments and progress that the district has made on reducing suspensions, particularly with the revised code of conduct, which further revisions you're considering and will be considering at your board meeting, I would say that Rochester still has a very far way to go. Rochester is one of the highest, has one of the highest suspension rates of any district in New York State. In fact, more than 5 times as high of a rate as New York City, which is also a very diverse district and certainly has high pockets of poverty within it. So there a lot more can be done. And some of that starts with policies and really clamping down on the use of suspensions and when they can be used. And I think New York City is a good example of the kind of reductions that can be made with better policies in place. So I hope that the revisions in the code of conduct, which I do approve of as a whole, could go further, and that we could put further restrictions on suspensions, particularly a 20-day limit for a single incident. But finally, I want to again commend on behalf of the Children's Agenda and other members of the Community Task Force on School Climate the efforts of the district to date, and hope that we can go further going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scallon. And the last speaker is Bob Van Kerkhove, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Good evening, Ms. Van Kerkhove, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners and Superintendent. My name is Barb Van Kerkhove. I'm a parent of an RCSD grad who will be graduating in May from college. And I want to express my deep gratitude for the students, parents, staff, and community who spent many meetings and hours working on this updated code of conduct. I'm celebrating the increased focus on restorative practices, the gender-inclusive language, the explicit prioritization of guidance interventions over more punitive responses, and the much easier to navigate guidance interventions and disciplinary responses matrix. Education and implementation, however, are key to making sure that this improved code of conduct has a positive impact on the climate of our schools. I attended a roundtable earlier this week where Rock Restoratives Angelica Matias and Ellie Foe, a teacher at School 17, discussed how they are using restorative practices to create community and understanding, to make space for school community members to share accountability and make amends, and ultimately to advance racial justice. Rock Restorative needs resources to expand on this good work to the entire school community so that we can become a restorative district that uses this new and improved code of conduct as a guiding document. As I said, I'm very happy to see that there's more about restorative practices or restorative approaches in the code. The one thing I am concerned about is in the main body of the document, there's a focus on the responsive processes and restorative practices that after something happens, and it doesn't really say anything about the proactive approaches that are used in restorative practices. My understanding from earlier this week is that 80% of restorative the board to approve this revised and improved code and to fully fund the supports that we need for its successful implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Kerhove. And let me just check to see if any of the speakers who were listed have come. Nazir Allah.
How y'all doing?
Hi, you have 3 minutes, Mr. Allah.
My name is Nazir Allah. I'm in 10th grade right now. And I'm here to talk about solutions, not suspensions. I still remember my first time getting suspended in my second grade year for drawing on myself, not listening to my homeroom teacher, or just doing stuff they would not like to get their attention. Just to have the adults in my school talk to me about what I seen at home. You know? I wish someone sat with me, helped me feel safe, as in the staff had. Or they could have had fidget toys or stress balls back then. Instead, I got kicked out of school at 7 years old. I didn't learn nothing from it. Ever since then, I've just been in and out of school. I've been suspended multiple times on different occasions. And I just want to say, as in, like, I don't want the youth to go through that now. That's in like 2nd grade or 3rd grade. And that's kind of what made me the way I am now. Like, I'm not in school now. I've been on remote learning since December. When I was in 2nd grade, 2014, at the same time, we had the old code of conduct. And that was all about suspensions. I only just found out that we have a new code of conduct that could help me as in if I was in 2nd grade. We shouldn't even be suspending 7-year-olds, and even older kids can learn. We need our new code of conduct to be fully used in the way it's intended. Suspensions needs to be our last resort. We had the current code of conduct in place since I was in 4th grade. I can only imagine how much that would have helped me grow and not be in the place I am now. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazir. Is Sahira Dillard here? Sahira Dillard? Good evening, Ms. Dillard. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Sahira Dillard. I'm an 11th grader at School of the Arts, and I'm a youth organizer at Teen Empowerment. There was a fight which took place during April 5th of 2022 who involved me and a few of my school peers. I can completely own up to where and when I went wrong, and I know that there were things that could have happened differently. Now, it's no doubt that fights are a huge problem within schools. But when that's all that's happening around these youth, how else would you expect them to act? And I'm not saying that it okays our actions, but what is it that's being done to help prevent this from happening? What is it that's stopping these youth from choosing these actions? The school faculty had a position to play, and they did not fulfill it to their full extent. I didn't receive my hearing until April 11th, was assigned my suspension the next day, and was not allowed to come back until May 31st. That's just about 2 months of missed work, 2 months of zero communication, and 2 months that caused my motivation and mental well-being to diminish. Sitting at home with that blockage from my school community lowered my social skills and spiked up my feelings of depression. Not to mention that this was my very first school offense ever, and that when I returned to school, there was nothing there to help me be able to catch up. Just a pile of work that I, on my own, and given a complete understanding on what the Code of Conduct is, and students and parents should be provided with this information. It should not be hidden. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Javon Fulton here, or did we hear from him already?
No.
All right. Mr. Fulton, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
How are y'all doing today?
We're doing wonderful.
Okay, that's good. So I didn't write down my thing I'll be telling y'all because I wanted it to come straight from the chest and how I feel about it. I was thrown in school suspension earlier this year due to a phone being found in my book bag. But the only reason why it was that I was checked was because there was a fight that happened in my classroom between two students, one that wasn't even supposed to be in there and belong in there. So I don't understand how the student even entered in the classroom. But there is also accusations of multiple students who were recording inside the classroom, so multiple students had to be checked. But I was the one who was picked out first, and my phone was found on me, only because I had a Yonder pouch, and I couldn't afford a new one, so I had to use one of my friends. Because it was broken by a staff when it was being checked, which was very aggravating in the moment. And I don't understand why it is that I had to pull out $20 out of my pocket from another staff breaking my Yonder pouch. So I was told they had to check through my phone or else I'd be thrown out of school suspension. So letting them invade my privacy, which I shouldn't even have allowed, they went through my phone and they found nothing. But I was still thrown into in-school suspension the next day. I feel like, and no, I wasn't the only student that happened to either. This happens to students in my school every day. I go to School of the Arts, by the way. I feel like if y'all can introduce restorative practices with the Solutions Not Suspension bill, I feel like there could be something worked out within the staff and the students to where they could figure out a problem with the Yonder pouches. And not only that, with the phone usage too. Because I don't feel like having a phone is a good reason for students to be thrown out of school every day. And that's it.
Thank you. I'm going to call other names. Let me just check to see if Kimberly Bennett has come in on Zoom. Tammy Williams. Has Ms. Williams come in on Zoom? All right, and we've heard from Teresa Thomas and Iman Scallon and Barb Van Kerkhoven. So those are the individuals who have signed up to speak. And so at this point, this Code of Conduct hearing is closed. And I want to just thank you all for coming and participating in this Code of Conduct public policy. I'm very proud of what you all have spoken to us tonight about your experiences, and we're hoping that the Code of Conduct addresses those issues and that the resolution is more preventive and collaborative as opposed to being punitive. And so that's why this board decided to revamp the Code of Conduct. And so we're hoping, we know it's not perfect, but we're hoping it's moving in the right direction. And so having said that, thank you for coming, and this public hearing is closed. Good evening. Welcome to the Rochester Board of Education Business Meeting, April 27th, 2023. We want to welcome you. We want to welcome those who are watching this via Facebook and other social media platforms. We thank you for joining us. We're going to start our agenda. We're going to call it to order and start with the act of reverence by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And I'm going to ask one of our school's two students if one of our students would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You want to lead us? Why don't you stand up? And I'm going to ask people who would be able to stand up. We've got our flag over here. So if everyone who would stand, please. And we have the flag right over here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Thank you.
We'll do the announcement.
Yeah. That's some of that nervous energy because they're getting ready to perform, so they had to get some of it off of them. Let me just say that I was doing some school visits around Black History Month, and I went into this classroom and I saw them performing, and I also saw how energetic Mr. Spofford is, and I mean, just really into this dance that they did to the words of Malcolm X. And so I invited them down, and I have to be quite honest, I actually had forgot about it, but Mr. Spofford continued to email me about it. And so we're just so happy to have our students from school too. What grades are you all in? So this is a 5th grade class, and led by Mr. Spofford, Teacher Spofford, we're going to have them to perform the same dance that they performed when I was there. So, Mr. Spofford, I'm going to turn it over to you. Spafford, thank you. Thank you. Spafford, thank you.
Our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Malcolm Little, known as Malcolm X, born in 1925. Father was a Baptist preacher, got killed trying to stay alive. His mother just couldn't recover, she really did love him, but payment to suffer. Foster care wasn't fair, but Malcolm was like no other. Dropped out of school, teacher told him that he couldn't be a lawyer, came a hustler instead. Got locked for 10 years, prison made him switch gears. Learned from everything he read, made his own education. Got introduced to the nation of Islam, stressed black pride and then some. 1952 he got parole, Malcolm X is how he took control. X represent his lost culture, slave name came from another color. Changed names so we could be some, so when he spoke out it was all substance. Fight back, I never need nothing, that's self-defense and self-reliance. He saw the crisis, hopped in the fire. People trying to make us all equal with a charismatic speaker. Spoke to the black folks about independence. She ain't made them all believers. White folks in power, they saw the threat. Spoke his name with disrespect. He controversial and dangerous. We can't handle that. We can't handle that. Pride. I need peace with my freedom. Black pride. He fought for the people. That man ain't dangerous. No, we ain't dangerous. We self-reliant and we proud of our heritage. Black pride. I need peace with my freedom. Black pride. He fought for the people, that man ain't dangerous. No, we ain't dangerous. We self-reliant and we proud of our heritage. Black, proud, black.
We don't advocate violence, but our people have been the constant victims of brutality on the part of America's racists, and the government has found itself either unwilling or unable to do anything about it.
Same time Martin Luther King Jr. made his rise, preaching tolerance, nonviolence, integration, civil rights. See, Malcolm X
had a different message. Two leaders and eyes, no disrespect, just perspective for protecting future lives. X on separation like the nation of Islam. He thought we should fight by any means. Our enemies bear arms to the 60s when he had that change of heart. Took a pilgrimage to Mecca, all the races that he saw. So we changed his name again to El Hajj El Malik Shabazz. Bars came back home with better teachings of Islam. He met Dr. King, realized King's dreams were like his own. Both leaders, same struggle, they was both brought to a fall. 1965, Malcolm X lost his life. 3 men gunned him down, he was only 39. His legacy he left alive, all of his lessons survive. Autobiography, his independence of mind, kept all our visions aligned. That's black
Pride. I need peace with my freedom, black pride. He fought for the people, that man ain't dangerous. No, we ain't dangerous. We self-reliant and we proud of our heritage. Black pride. I need peace with my freedom, black pride. He fought for the people, that man ain't dangerous. No, we ain't dangerous. We self-reliant and we proud of our heritage. Black pride, black pride, black pride, black pride.
Let me just say to the school two students, if I can have your attention. I just want you to know that I just recently came back from Atlanta and I toured the King Center. So when you get an opportunity, you've got to do it in your lifetime. You got to go to the King Center and see exactly what Dr. King stood for. It's an amazing time to be down there. They have about 600,000 visitors each year. Please, and one of my, as I retire, one of the things that I want to do is to go to the cities that have African-American museums so we'll know more about our history, because it's more than King, it's more than Malcolm, and they did a great job. But there's so much more to hear about our history. And just, no, let me just say this to you. You all know about Bill Gates, right? Microsoft. The richest man that ever lived, his name was Mansa Musa. He had far more, he lived in the 14th century. He had a black man, had more money than anybody. Go look and research him, okay? So thank you all for coming and doing this. Let me just, also parents, are you here? Let me just have you to stand up, please. Thank you, stand up, please. Thank you, thank you. You know, I appreciate your commitment to your children, helping us to help them. Thank you for bringing them out and continue to push education for them, specifically Black history education. Make sure that you're pushing that, because in knowing that, they're able to stand on their own and be able to do the work that they've been called to do in this society and to do well in school academically. The foundation is knowing who they are as African Americans in this nation. So thank you so much for coming, and appreciate it. And I'll see you sometime next year. Thank you again. All right, so I'm going to turn it over now to Rahima for the upcoming Board of Education events. Ms. Nguyen.
Thank you, President Elliott. Good evening, commissioners and community. For the May 20th,
we'll just give them a minute to leave up. And that's just another example that our parents do show up to their children's events. Yep. All right. All right. Okay, Ms. Nguyen.
yes. Good evening, President Elliott, commissioners and community. For May 2023, the following events will be occurring for the Board of Education. On Tuesday, May 2nd, beginning at 5:30 p.m., we will have our policy committee meeting, followed on Wednesday, May 3rd by the third and final budget deliberation session, also beginning at 5:30 p.m. On Tuesday, May 9th, at 5:30, we will have a special meeting convened for the adoption of the 2023-24 budget. Our ESA committee and special meeting will occur on May 16th at 5:30 p.m. On Tuesday, May 23rd, beginning at 4:30 p.m., we will have the Scholar Athlete Recognition, followed by the HR committee meeting beginning at 5:30. On Thursday, May 25th, prior to the start of the monthly business meeting, we will have the Educator of the Year Awards beginning at 5 p.m., followed by the business meeting at 6:30. Just a few reminders to the community. RCSD employees, parents, students, and community members who are interested may set up a meeting with Board President Cynthia Elliott on Monday evenings. You can do so by going to visit us at the district's website under the Board of Education tab. You can also see our board calendar there. And then as a final reminder, the board is always looking to have parent reps on all of our committees. We have the following committees: Community and Intergovernmental Relations, our Finance Committee, Policy, Human Resources, and Equity and Student Achievement. Parents, legal guardians, and grandparents who are interested in serving as parent reps may fill out an application and submit it to the board. You can find this application at www.rcsdk12.org/BOE parent rep. Thank you.
There are no minutes to be approved at this meeting. Thank you. We have a speaker that signed up to speak for this evening's business meeting, Abdul Bounds. Welcome, Mr. Bounds, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is, hello, board. How you doing? My name is Abdul Bounds, graduate of East High School class of 2010. I'm an SSO at Franklin Upper High School and a community member here to address safety and security in our schools as a whole. We every day do our best to make sure that these children are safe. But we know that times have changed due to social media and the climate that we live in today. I advise this board to look at the men and women who put their lives every day on the line in the Rochester City School District for these students. Because most of you don't know that most of you who I know serving this board have not been in my building, have not actually seen what really goes on. We have all around this district, we have administration making big bank, meaning big dollars to discipline children, again, which I've witnessed and seen. We put them out for no reason. The discipline, man. I have staff members that have been assaulted. Children that have only been given 5 days and let back in school, and they're laughing at you in your face. One of my coworkers by the name of, I'm not going to mention it, but was hit by a student. This girl is literally back walking out in the halls now. We have Kia boys in our school that tell me, Mr. Bounds, we going to go steal cars. And they steal them out our parking lot and other schools in this district. We have kids that have caught smoking weed in bathrooms. Take them to administration. Nothing gets done. Once again, we need help. Attendance, lack of parent involvement. This is what I'm seeing. Parents are struggling with their own mental issues as well. The lack of structure and direction. And when half of these kids graduate, half of them can't read or write. As an SSO, I go home depressed. I go home mad. I am underpaid, meaning I make $19 an hour, literally, for what? I care for these kids. I'll lay my life on the line for these kids. But again, till you guys actually know what's going on, what are we going to get done? And once again, we know we have a city of Rochester problem that's out of control. We have crime at an all-time high. Once again, where has law and order went? Again, where has law and order went? Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Bounds. I don't know if you heard me, but we do appreciate your input. Thank you so very much. The next item on the agenda is our advisory council reports, and we'll start with the Student Advisory Council report. David?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Deo Bion. I'm an 11th grader from Rochester Early College International High School. And for the Student Leadership Congress's April 13th meeting, students from Wilson Commencement, Edison Tech, East, School of the Arts, and Early College all collectively defined what it means to be a leader, representing and advocating for their schools during this meeting. The Student Leadership Congress had the amazing opportunity of having Commissioner Simmons during our meeting leading a table discussion on the needs of students and what drives them. The discussion created avenues of thought, including but not limited to student safety, restrictive school policies, and more virtual academy courses offered in our district. The Student Leadership Congress thanks Commissioner Simmons on her willingness to join us and her commitment to students. The Student Leadership Congress, in dedication to student leaders, created and reviewed the Student Leadership Congress bylaws, a document for students and faculty of the Student Leadership Congress to abide by and adhere to. Students broke out into breakout groups to review policies and procedures in the bylaws and came back together to agree on the final document. Our SLC bylaws have been submitted for the board to review. We strongly believe that SLC is essential to our district and needs to be continued for future years to come. Commissioner Powell and General Counsel Adrian Neal also joined us in order to clarify and possibly amend certain policies regarding student publications. Commissioner Powell asked questions to students involving us in a discussion of who should be the first line of censorship in student publications and or media. Her sincere interest in our feedback is appreciated. A representative from Leadership Rochester, a nonprofit organization focusing on leadership skills, also joined us in discussing the ongoing 7-week program session for emerging leaders, where teens from all over the greater Rochester area join in for discussions on identity, self-awareness, bias, and take field trips around the community, learning about urban development and how to grow into leaders of our own. Their spring sessions start on April 19th and will end May 31st. We're also in the process of finalizing our SLC service projects. One, we are finishing planning our buddy reading day in May for the first grade classrooms at School 58, School 45, and Wilson Foundation. Each class will have a group of high school students visit, and each high school student will group with 2 or 3 first graders to share in the reading of a new book. Then the high school students will share snacks and drinks with the first graders. SLC will present each class with a set of 25 new hardcover books. We also have another service project at East High School, which will be revitalizing their Peace Garden with the help of SLC. Edison will also be making their entrance to their athletics facility more inviting with paint, inspirational quotes, and photos. I would now like to take this time to make a few comments regarding my school, Rochester Early College International High School. I feel it cannot be regarded as a high school, and any attempts to call it that I will reject. High school is a line between adulthood and innocence of childhood. High school is a place not only to learn, but to define yourself. However, our school is not like this. Our school is an unsymmetrical U that is on the 3rd floor of an elementary to middle school. Our school has lockers, but the one I was assigned to, I can't use because it's on the floor and the size of my single arm length. My alma mater is a lifeless one-way of opportunity, and that's no joke. My school is literally a one-way hallway. 400 students in a hallway is a bizarre visualization, but it's true. But yet, with the lack of support from the district in terms of space and transparency, we have a 98% graduation rate, the highest in the district, competing directly with the highest performing schools in the county. My question is, if we are trying to pull and recruit students from surrounding districts and charter schools, why do we continue to pull away from successful programs such as this one? The early college model is a rare one. Students get free college courses with the opportunity to take a class at a real college campus during the school day. As the district minimizes their school footprint, where does early college stand? Will we continue to be at 300 Genesee Street? If early college is a successful model that can stand on its own 2 feet with all this weight, imagine the possibility of us in our own space where we can grow. I cannot express the frustration of being in a space where the hallways are almost my entire wingspan. I challenge this board and administration to come up with a timely solution for our school that does not conclude in a standstill or closing as with any other school district touches. With that, The Student Leadership Congress is ever so grateful for the Board of Education and RCSD staff, and we're continuing to always recruit more students to represent and advocate for schools across the RCSD. The Student Leadership Congress is watching the board closely during this budget season and has a high expectations for our voices not to be implemented and not just heard. Thank you, board, staff, families, and students. We are here for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And the next advisory council report is our Parent Leadership Advisory Council.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Good evening.
We are parents and your partners. Parents belong at every decision-making table because parents are the only decision makers in this city that matter when it comes to where our children get their education, either in or out of the RCSD. Listening and watching the budget deliberations, we have to wonder where the urgency is regarding the consistent loss of students over the last decade. In the 2007-2008 school year, the City of Rochester had a total of 32,768 students, with just over 1,000 students opting to go to charter schools instead of RCSD schools. 13 years later, and that number has dropped to 23,697 students, with now almost 7,500 students associated with families who have chosen to leave the district. By 2027, you are projecting that you will have only 16,000 schools in the students in the district. 16,000? That's half the children in this city. Have we truly lost half the school-age children in this city? Why is this being spoken about as if it has already happened? It's unclear in the budget and in your interactions with parents as to what you are actually doing to stem the tide. This district and this board has had a full year to connect with the community, including parents, on how to create a budget book that was thoughtful, transparent, and easy to read. Instead, we were all handed the exact same format that resulted in the termination of some of the highest-ranking members of the previous administration. Participatory budgeting has allowed for general feedback, but like every other tool of community and parent engagement, there's no dialogue. There was a single budget hearing held for the community, and while the website stated that parents could sign up to speak on site, there was no Zoom option to do so, which excluded all families that did not have the ability to travel downtown to speak in person, as well as community members that attempted to sign in, whose names did not appear on the speakers list. Due to this lack of dialogue, PLAC has put out a survey to parents to ask how they would like to be engaged with and the solutions that are cost-effective, time-respective, and simple. They include, but should not be limited to, roundtable discussions about the budget at their child's school, a questionnaire sent to all parents via text, email, and print, a webinar format with the opportunity to submit feedback at the end, several community budget hearings scheduled at different days and times, recorded videos explaining changes and the reason for those changes. Not just what's in the budget, how the budget is created. Well, what did you change? What's different? How does this affect families? Again, you had an entire year to solicit feedback from families on what matters to them and where their priorities fall. Parents and families attempt to understand a document with no context and no narrative. We live in one of the big 5 districts where taxpayers do not get to vote on their school budget, but yet we are still entitled to the information in a way that is easy to understand about where and how our dollars are being spent. Since it was not asked, we are here to provide the priorities of your parents on what dollars should be focused on. This is from our survey. As you continue your deliberations, remember the extra 1,000 students that have spoken by leaving the district this school year because the priorities of their families were not being met. These are the top 4 from our survey. They are quite intertwined. 1, social emotional learning continues to be the top priority for all parents, which some parents are quick to include is a very big part of school safety. Close behind is academic recovery in the number 2 spot. Academic recovery opportunities for our students, which could include opportunities for before and after school activities, enrichment, hiring more teachers of color, and new and innovative ways to engage students in their learning at all levels. Number 3, smaller class sizes. I know, that's a big ask. Number 4, additional supports for scholars with IEPs and 504 plans. Parents are disengaged from the district. But parents show up for their kids. Look what happened tonight. Did you see all the people here who were here for their children? They show up for their kids. They're not showing up for the district. So the next time you hear yourself begin to say the words, parents don't show up, or some parents just don't, pause before you speak and think inward for a moment. Think about what has been done to make parents feel that they are not welcomed and not affirmed in the most important environment they send their most important humans to every single day. Instead of turning the fault onto that parent, begin to do the work to mend the relationships. Because we can stand up here every month and tell you to listen to parents, that we are the decision makers, and if we are not part of the decision-making process, you will never solve the problems in this city. And we will continue to tell you this. It's your turn to listen and make changes that the students in this city need. Let's find a way to work together for the best of all of the city's children. And on a final note, I would like to let you know that PLAC's last general membership meeting for the school year will be an RCSD family party at School 50 on May 17th at 6 p.m. Everyone is welcome. Please register so we have enough food. You can register via the PLAC website, which you can access via the RCSD website under the Families tab, or send an email to PLAC, P-L-A-C, at rcsd121.org. Thank you.
And let me just, why don't you stay there for a minute, because I need to clarify something.
Absolutely.
Let me just say this. Nobody on this board has ever said parents are not involved and don't care. So that's a misnomer. I don't know where you got that from, but this board has always cared about parents, and this board has never said that parents are not involved. All right, so I wanted to make that clear. This board has never said that.
I would also like to clarify that this
Okay.
is the message that parents get all the time. May not be directly from any
Okay,
of
I
you.
just wanted to clarify that.
This
This
is the
board,
message
okay.
that parents get from schools. This is the
Okay.
message parents get from the media. This is the underlying narrative that we hear all the time. And it's not because we don't care.
No, and
I know
we're clear
you know
about
that,
Okay.
but you need to understand how parents are feeling. And when we are constantly told that we don't show up because we don't care, we care. Look at what happened tonight. Look at all the parents that were here to watch their beautiful children and how talented they were. Parents
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, we know, this board knows that.
Right. So our point is the district has to figure out how do we mend these relationships so that parents do show up, so that parents care. And it really starts by the district and the board listening and asking questions and asking for feedback and saying what is important to you and what are we missing. And that's really the whole point of this. In the budget process, it's been gone. It's not
All right.
there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next report is from the Bilingual Education Council.
Buenas noches, soy Divet García, presidenta del Concilio de Educación Bilingüe, que estoy aquí con el resto de los oficiales.
Good evening, buenas noches. I'm Divet Garcia, President of the Bilingual Education Council. I am here with the rest of the BEC officers.
Esto no está en el informe, pero acabo de llegar de la Escuela 35, tenían una feria de salud muy buena.
So I just come from School 35, who had a very good health fair.
Ok, para comenzar con, ¿verdad? El reporte. El Concilio de Educación Bilingüe está formado por padres bilingües, organizaciones comunitarias y educadores que representan y defienden los derechos educativos a una educación bilingüe de calidad para nuestros estudiantes en el distrito.
The Bilingual Education Council is made of bilingual parents, community-based organizations, and educators representing and advocating for educational rights to a quality bilingual education for our students in the district.
El Concilio de Educación Bilingüe celebró su reunión el martes 11 de abril en el Centro REC de Trenton y Pamela Jackson. Más de 10 padres asistieron y participaron activamente. Tuvimos representantes de la Federación Hispana, del Rochester Education Fellow y de Ibero-American Action League. Tidy Abreu, directora de Política e Impacto Social y presidenta de Lead Coalition, se unió al concilio y recopiló información sobre las opiniones de los estudiantes y de las familias latinas sobre las medidas de graduación, los cursos avanzados y la inscripción dual, y su comprensión del desglose de datos. Los resultados se utilizarán para ayudar a la Federación Hispana y LEAD a defender a los estudiantes y familias bilingües. Se habló de las preocupaciones destacadas de los datos presentados para las inscripciones total de cohorte revisión de graduación del 2019, de la presentación proporcionada del Comité de Equidad en el logro estudiantil el 13 de diciembre.
The BEC held its meeting on Tuesday, April 11th at the Trenton and Pamela Jackson Art Center. Over 10 parents attended and were actively engaged. We had guests from the Hispanic Federation, the Rochester Education Fellow, and the Ibero-American Action League. Tidy Abreu, Senior Director of Policy and Social Impact and Chair of the LEAD Coalition, joined the council and collected information on Latino students and families and thoughts about the graduation measures, advanced courses, and dual enrollment for their understanding and data disaggregation. The results will be used to help Hispanic Federation and LEAD advocate on behalf of bilingual students, and LEAD advocate on behalf of bilingual students and families. The concerns highlighted from the data presented for the 2019 total cohort enrollment and graduation review and the presentation provided at the December 13th Equity and Student Achievement Committee were also discussed.
El concilio continúa trabajando con otros grupos de padres. Han asistido a reuniones de PLAC y CPAC. Estuve en la reunión de padres bilingües de la Edison. Ellos tienen una iniciativa muy buena con el grupo bilingüe de padres. También estuve en un evento de la Edison en que el orador principal trajo un mensaje motivacional para los educadores. Estuve en el rally de Children's Agenda de Soluciones No Suspensiones haciendo un discurso en español sobre el tema. También en una de las reuniones de las oficinas de Parent Engagement en la Escuela 12 y pude participar en el comité de la Junta de Finanzas esta semana.
The council continues working with other parent groups. They have attended PLAC and CPAC meetings. I was at the Edison Bilingual Parent Meeting, and they had a very good initiative with their bilingual parent group. I also attended the event at Edison where the keynote speaker delivered a motivational message for educators. I was at the Children's Agenda Solutions Not Suspensions rally, and I gave a speech in Spanish on the topic. I also participated in one of the Office of Parent Engagement meetings at School 12 and was able to participate in the Finance Board Committee and Board Budget deliberations this week.
El presidente del concilio se reunió con Dr. Christopher Miller, jefe de Capital Humano, para hablar sobre la contratación de maestros por los directores escolares. No permite la colocación estratégica de maestros bilingües en todo el distrito. Seguimos profundamente preocupados porque están colocando a maestros bilingües en escuelas que no son bilingües. El Concilio de Educación Bilingüe está de acuerdo en que todas las escuelas deben tener personal bilingüe, pero se debe dar la prioridad a los maestros bilingües para que sean colocados en programas bilingües. Esta es un área de escasez de personal y se cita en el decreto de consentimiento y el plan de acción correctivo de ILL. Con esto concluye nuestro informe de actividades para este mes. Muchas gracias.
I met with Dr. Christopher Miller, Chief of Human Capital, to discuss how principal hiring of teachers does not allow for district-wide strategic placement of bilingual teachers. We continue to be deeply concerned that we are placing bilingual teachers in non-bilingual schools. While the BEC agrees that all schools should have bilingual staff, a priority must be placed on bilingual teachers to be placed in bilingual programs. This is an area of staff shortages and is cited on the consent decree and ELL corrective action plan. This concludes our activity report. Muchas gracias.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. The next item on the agenda is board reports, and I'm going to go to the ESA committee. Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, President Elliott. I'm just going to be brief. The Equity and Student Achievement Committee met as a committee of the whole on Tuesday, April 18th. The board, during this time, reviewed and accepted the minutes from the March 28th ESA Committee of the Whole meeting. Our Chief Academic Officer, Steve Lamort, presented on the elements of RCSD curriculum and instruction, the instructional core, instructional tasks, as well as the state standards that align with that. School Chiefs Matthew, Chief White provided the first School Chiefs Network presentation. They discussed district highlights, attendance, suspensions, and instruction. Notably, suspension days are down 6,732 days as reported this year from last year. There is an increase in restorative training and practices across many schools, and there are mandated restorative trainings and I'm losing my spot. Let me increase these words here. There are mandated re-engagement meetings for schools with high recidivism rates. The biggest area of attendance concerns is within the pre-K 3, pre-K 4, and 9th grades. Commissioners requested the related data be disaggregated for further analysis, and our next ESA Committee of the Whole will take place on Tuesday, May 16th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. We were supposed to go into executive session. What we're going to do is go through the board reports, and then I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. And let me just point out that for the audit as well as the CIGR committee, there are no reports for this month. Is that correct, commissioners? Yeah, all right, thank you. So the next report is the Finance Committee report, and I'll read that briefly since Vice President LeBron is not here. The Finance Committee met as a committee of the whole on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. During that meeting, the committee discussions focused on the following items. The board reviewed and accepted the minutes from the February 14th, 2023 Finance Committee of the whole meeting. Claims auditors Naraki Smith LLP presented the March 2023 Claims Audit Report. Naraki Smith reported inquiries and or observations into 570 claims, and there are 122 outstanding inquiries. CFO Farr led the review of the unaudited April 2023 financial reports. OASIS received a grant to provide audit education services to SNAP recipients. CFO Farr reported the available appropriations for Cursor, which is $28 million, and for ARP, which is $125 million. There was a review of the first, second, and third quarter 2022-23 quarterly change order report, and a preview for financial resolutions for the May business meeting. The board received the third quarter Medicaid compliant report. This report and all other reference materials are available via board docs. The board continues the 2023-24 budget deliberations. The second budget deliberation was held April 26, 2023, and the third and final budget deliberation is scheduled for Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. The next Finance Committee meeting, which will be in person, is going to be June 27th, 2023. And I would entertain a motion to accept the unaudited April 2023 financial report, March 2023 claims auditor report, and the first, second, and third quarter change order reports for 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? Seconded by, moved by Commissioner Simmons, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then we have no HR report for this, for May. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Powell for the Policy Committee report. Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam President. The Policy Committee last met on Tuesday, April 11th. We, after months and months of work and about a month and a half of just reviewing the proposed code of conduct in subcommittee, the final code of conduct was presented in the policy committee. The final proposed code of conduct policy was presented in that policy committee meeting. The major recommended changes, the requisite public hearing was today at 5:30. And so we will be discussing the code of conduct in our next policy committee meeting with the purpose of moving it out of committee and into the full board approval pipeline. We also received an overview of the administration's proposed policy 5153, parent preference managed choice. But that was just to socialize it. We didn't take action. That will also be on next month's agenda. We did consider 4 other policies for review. 4 policies were moved out of committee and will be part of tonight's packet of first readings under new business. We had some recommendations for student publications, 5220, at that meeting. They were forwarded out of committee. However, because there were proposals for some changes, that part of which came out of the SLC meeting subsequent to that committee meeting, I would like to ask for a motion to return policy 5220 back to committee.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Chair, do you want to facilitate the vote?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. So what's in the pipeline still is we have one policy under unfinished business that will be heard in its second reading. That's the fund balance policy. And tonight we have a whole slew. We have 11 policies being proposed for amendment. We have 1 policy new to the manual, and we have 4 that are being recommended for rescission, and we can speak to the particulars. Well, we usually vote on those on a bundle, so for the public's edification, I'll just read off the names and policy numbers that are going to be voted on tonight. That will be policy 0201, Equity and Educational Excellence Policy. Policy 2000, the Board of Education Goals and Metrics. Policy 3100, Superintendent of Schools. Policy 3111, Recruitment of Superintendent. Policy 3220, Administrative Councils, Cabinets, and Committees. Policy 3230, Organization Chart. Policy 3310, Development of Regulations. Policy 9110, Equal Employment Opportunity. Policy 9200, Criminal History Background. Policy 9240, Recruitment, Hiring, and Residence Initiative Policy. Policy 9330, Evaluation of Staff. The new policy is Policy 2521, School Board Conferences, Conventions, and Workshops. And the policies recommended for rescission are 3130, Superintendent Contract, 3131, Superintendent's Compensation and Benefits, 3200, Administrative Organization, and 9540, Domestic Partner Benefits Policy. Finally, our next Policy Committee of the Whole is next Tuesday, May 2. And that concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you. And so we voted on all of those. My report, President's report, I will provide that next week. I had some computer problems and couldn't access and on vacation, so I'll get that to the board next week. And so before we go into executive session, Dr. Nelms has asked if he can present his report before that. So Dr. Nelms, please come. Good evening.
Thank you for the flexibility, President, and good evening, community. I will be quick. How's that? Before I start, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Dr. Christopher Spence, who's in the back there. Spence has been at East for the last 2 years, and effective July 1, he will become the new superintendent, Fall Mountain Region School District in New Hampshire. So I want to take a moment to just congratulate him, and I wish him well in his new endeavor. He was a sponge the last 2 years and has done incredible work for our school community. We wish him well. Our report is really to highlight the work of our students and what they're doing throughout spring and as they prepare to leave our doors and enter college, career, to workforce. And so they have been out in the community doing a number of things. The first slide is where our students are doing regards to our TLI program, or our Teaching and Learning Institute. These individuals visited Buff State to consider a college option for those who want to pursue a career in education. These students have toured many students, mostly within New York State, who have a strong academic program for teaching, and we hope those students come back to Rochester to be teachers in our system. The next slide next two slides highlight our students who are in our medical careers program. These students, as you see them in their lab coats, went through a series of workshops and hands-on experiences for the entire semester. And they worked with the nurses and the doctors and the residents at the Strong Memorial Hospital to study different aspects of community health and health disparities. Last week, these same students presented on a myriad of topics, including PTSD, Crohn's disease, obesity, and the list goes on and on. The one student who presented on Crohn's disease, as she explained her poster to me, she explained that she herself has Crohn's disease, and she talked about the struggles of finding meal options throughout her entire school journey. She's now a high school junior, and how she had to learn how to advocate for herself and to help the school systems better understand her disease, so they could give her a meal option that was good, but also versatile. She said she was getting the same thing every single day. And this goes back to her elementary experiences in another district. But she just was talking about the advocacy and making sure that she wanted to enter the field of medicine to find a cure or to help solve some of the chronic pain associated with that disease. So I give her a big round of applause. Our students are also very, very, very focused on the balance between the academics and the arts. And these particular students celebrated Music in Our Schools Month. I want to just thank those throughout the district who pour into our students who are musical. We saw celebrations throughout the entire school district. This is just some pictures and images from what happened at East. We know that music is important in the lives of our students, and it's becoming to grow in all of our schools. The next is my little bias is one of my favorite activities that I see the students do every year, and this is their sculpturing in ceramics. And I said to teacher, Ms. Dowling, every year it seems that they get better and better and better. And these students spent the year learning how to mold clay. They worked with local artists, and then they created these sculptures, which will be part of our larger art show at the end of the year. But some of the topics that students wanted to focus on were athletics, Puerto Rico in terms of that region, and trying to express that through art, religion, the cat lady, and many, many more. As advocates in our schools, our students are looking at how do they get out information to the community that will help them live a more vibrant life. We had a wellness expo tonight, actually, at East, and I'm going to run back to that. And you'll see those same topics, some of the same topics I discussed earlier. This is an opportunity for our students to educate their parents and community members about the things they're learning in science and in their medical careers classes to ensure a healthy and vibrant community. We also, our students also did this activity called Airing Your Dirty Laundry. And this was an opportunity for students to air the dirty laundry of domestic violence and relationship violence. And so these students wanted to talk about some of the signs and symptoms when someone is living through this type of violent, unhealthy relationship, and also how to get out of it. And so it's good to see our students supporting their peers and their family members and making sure that we don't accept relationship violence or domestic violence as a norm. For those who follow the East Twitter and Facebook pages and Instagram pages, our East baseball team traveled to California. What's important about this is that this was done in conjunction with a student, a former East graduate, who played baseball, became a pilot, and wanted to give back to the school. And so he's been working on this for a couple of years now and was able to attend these events with the students from April 18th to the 23rd. They had a game out in California. They visited a number of professional baseball games, public arts in that community, but more importantly, it gave them the opportunity to bond as a team. And this was funded through the generosity of this particular pilot and other funds that he secured along the way. So I want to thank our former student, Kelise, also Coach Crandall and his team, and the students for representing Rochester City School District out on the West Coast. The last, certainly not least, I invite the community to come on out on this Saturday from 8 to 12 to be part of the Mayor's Clean Sweep. We're going to be at East. We have over 150 volunteers right now, but we can always use more. We're going to clean up the grounds. We're going to clean the outside of the building and do some projects inside. But we hope when kids come back on Monday, East will look 10 times better than they did when they leave on Friday. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations again in your new position. I forgot your name, but it's Dr. Smith. But are there, and congratulations, much success to you. Are there any questions for Dr. Nelms? Commissioner Powell?
I just want to uplift that story about the East High baseball team. I mean, we should be giving them a round of applause for that.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. They did a great job out there. Thanks.
Any other questions for Dr. Nelms? Commissioner Patterson?
Any questions, but if you need a supervisor, I'll be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, that's right. Likewise.
Just thank you for your service. Thank you.
Commissioner Adams?
Yeah, I just like take my hat off to you for what you've done on your journey here with the district. And I'd like to comment on about this, the health concerns that you've been exploring in the community. I'm really impressed to see vaping and opioid misuse on there. This is current stuff that the kids need to know about. They're hearing a lot about it, and so to be educating them on it, I just really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks for being
Nelms.
flexible tonight. Appreciate it.
All right.
One more thing for me, Dr. Spence, congratulations again.
Thanks.
Thank you. So can I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters leading to the demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person and student matters which are confidential by federal or state law? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we can Good evening. Thank you. We have reconvened. We went into an executive session. That executive session is over, and so now we are continuing with the agenda. And the next item on the agenda is the report from our superintendent, Dr. Peluso. Dr. Peluso?
Thank you, President Elliott, and once again, good evening to all of those that are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and any other social media platform that we are on. Before I start tonight's superintendent's presentation, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my condolences and our condolences from the board for the School 23 family that lost one of their students last night. The team was there this morning and saw the hurt and impact that has on our teachers and our kids, and we just want to know that, want them to know that we're with them. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. We will continue to provide that school support as they go through this tough time. So once again, from the bottom of our hearts and the board, you are in our thoughts and prayers. I want to start this evening to provide an update on our safety investments thus far this year. We're all concerned about the level of crime and violence that have worked their way on to our campus, and we have seen this on a more consistent basis, and we are addressing our safety issues. And the team has been working with the City of Rochester, the Rochester Police Department, as well as our bargaining units to develop strategies to help ensure safety on and around our campuses. And tonight I'm just going to briefly share some of those updates and upgrades that have gone on this year. We've added RPD presence in January at select five buildings and using them to rotate through all of our campuses during the day, from periodically from campus to campus, and they're at arrival and dismissals at some of our campuses. And that was a $370,000 investment this board made. We also increased and upgraded our cameras at Franklin, Edison, and Monroe for an approximate amount of $212,000. We've done server upgrades to support our new high-resolution cameras. So as we add these high-resolution cameras, we needed to make sure that our servers were able to handle that, and that was an $868,000 investment. And we're doing door access projects throughout the district where people badge in and badge out for safety reasons, and that project, when all said and done, is going to be approximately $2.2 million. We've upgraded our PA systems in several campuses in the tune of $204,000. We added fencing at Rochester Early Childhood Education Center, sorry, not Rochester Early College, at the Childhood Education Center after they've been facing some violence around their building. We added an hour of SSO availability in all buildings so that staff can have an escort if they want to and from the building, which is costing us, we approved about $130,000, and we have wellness training as well for our SSOs. We're continuing with our radio and communication equipment upgrades for approximately $330,000, new scanning devices, Crisis Prevention Institute training for $67,000, and most recently, you saw that we put some concrete bollards at Franklin and some temporary fencing as we transition to some more permanent solutions on some of our campuses to make sure that they're protected. Tonight, I'm asking that you consider a resolution for $7 million from fund balance to be committed to continued safety and security measures at various facilities. Earlier, once again, I met this week with all 4 union presidents, and I think that's the first time in a long time that the district and the union presidents collaboratively work together on an item such as this. And the funding will be directed for some of the recommendations made by our bargaining units, but as well as some of the recommendations from our safety and security team. And a plan will be put before this board on expenditures prior to implementation, and then we'll continue to put progress and provide the board with progress updates as we go forth. Underground Railroad Network to Freedom. I'm hoping that some of you saw this on the news. This is exciting. I'm thrilled to announce that Anna Marie Douglas Academy, school number 12, has been recognized by the National Park Service as an Underground Railroad site. This historic designation is a testament to the unwavering commitment of Anna Marie Douglas and the school's community to the pursuit of freedom and equality. As educators, we are inspired by the legacy of Anna Marie Douglas and the important role that educators play in fighting for justice. So congratulations to our School 12 community. It is National Library Week, and literacy is a major driver of academic success. Can't say that enough. When reading becomes a part of the child's life, even before formal schooling, the lifelong academic results are profound. I want to thank our amazing librarians all for the great work they do to share their joy of reading with their students. And I'm excited to announce 3 initiatives that are designed to improve literacy among all of our students. First, I'm happy to announce our partnership with the local chapter of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. They provide free monthly book subscriptions to children from birth to age 5. Each month, the Imagination Library mails a high-quality, age-appropriate book to the homes of all registered children at no cost to the child's family. And these books feature a diverse cast of characters, settings, and authors. All RCSD families live in the area served by the Rochester chapter of the Imagination Library, which sent its first free book out in the fall of 2021. Since then, it has grown rapidly. As of this month, more than 1,800 children in the city of Rochester are currently enrolled. Information is available on our RCSD website. We want to thank Vice President LeBron for introducing us to Imagination Library and forging this wonderful partnership. Please go to our website and sign up for these free books. RCSD partners with Amira. So we're using federal stimulus funds to invest in literacy and learning loss, and have partnered with 2 great companies to work with our students from K through 12th grade. We're taking advantage of technological advances of artificial intelligence, and the opportunity is creating for learning and school, for school and at home. The first partnership I want to highlight is Amira Learning. This reading practice and digital reading coach is available for our students in grades K through 6 in both English and Spanish. This program could be used at home or during after-school programs. Amira helps facilitate meaningful data that teachers can share with parents. And we recommend that students log in for 10 to 15 minutes at least 3 times per week. Amira is available to students by logging on to our Rock Connect using a computer or a tablet. And parents are also provided with tools at home to support their children in learning how to read, and we hope they take advantage of this valuable resource. Very cool. Also, for our older kids, we have a partnership with Paper, the leading provider of unlimited, 24/7 on-demand tutoring and academic support will benefit our students in grades 6 through 12. This enables our students to receive one-on-one live chat tutoring sessions with subject matter experts in over 200 subjects and 4 different languages. They can also engage in interactive shows and activities to expand learning in and out of the classroom and receive expert reviews on any written work. This reminds me of our homework hotline on, Enhance, right? So 24/7 hours, call, get someone live, and get some great support. Continuing with our HBCU visits, we had a break and we came back from a break, and what we came back to is some excited students. Our students have returned from that once-in-a-lifetime visit to historical Black colleges and university, having traveled many miles. Juniors and seniors from 11 of our high schools were part of this unique experience during our last 2 school breaks, and they visited HBCUs in various cities and states, including Atlanta, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, and North Carolina. For some, it was their first time on an airplane and even seeing other parts of the country. These all expense-paid trips gave our students the opportunity to explore their future beyond high school. Our learning also didn't stop for students over spring break. Some of our middle schools got firsthand knowledge of what it is like to work inside a police department. They participated in an internship with Rochester Police Department, learning about careers in the community engagement, recruitment, and technical services. Those who completed this week-long internship are being connected to our Career and Technical Education Department, specifically its Pathways to Public Safety program. The middle schoolers involved in this internship are trailblazers for others in the district who will be engaging in similar interactions this summer and beyond. I would also like to thank Kelly Briggs for forging this partnership. For the second year in a row, the district partnered with Advantage Federal Credit Union to host financial literacy classes over spring break. This was an opportunity for students in grades 6 through 12 to build their financial literacy skills and understanding, including banking basics, building credit, how to manage a budget, and consider spending for things like rent, insurance, and groceries. Definitely a class we all, or I at least wish I had when I was younger. And finally, the cast of Aladdin visits School 19. Wishes do come true. Just ask the students at School 19 who had an awesome experience earlier this month when cast members from Disney's Aladdin surprised them at school. Students attended the performance the night before at the Auditorium Theater and were very surprised to see cast members burst through their door of the library to meet them in person, shouting, "Did someone make a wish?" The stars of the show spent time with students, answered some really good questions, signed autographs, and shared stories about performing and touring around the country. So thank you to the cast of Aladdin. And that concludes my superintendent report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peluso. Thank you, Dr. Peluso. That was an exciting report, particularly, you know, when we're focused in on various programs and events for our students. Really exciting. Let me just open it up for any questions for the superintendent. All right, hearing that, that's the first time we've had no questions for the superintendent. So it was a great report, and thank you so very much, Dr. Peluso. So the next item on the agenda, we'll go to the resolutions, and so I'm going to see if it's okay if we bundle those resolutions. All right, any objections? All right, so we're going to go to the consent agenda items, and that is resolutions 583 through resolution 589. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Patterson. Any questions or comments related to resolutions 583 through 590? Commissioner Powell?
You called for a resolution going through 589. Did you intend for it to be resolution 583 through 590?
Yeah, there's a final payment H.
Right, but the resolution you called for was only through 589.
Okay, excuse me. Yep, all right. So let me just change that. Thank you. For resolutions 583 through 590. My apologies. Thank you, Commissioner.
Motion for 583 through 590.
Thank you, Vice President LeBron, and Commissioner Patterson, you second. So any questions or comments related to these 583 through 590? And I do have a question, if no one else has one at the time. In reference to resolution 589, probably that's why I stopped at 589, because my question is 589. Let me just get to that. I saw, where in this resolution there was a negative $5,000, and I'm assuming that that means that we didn't spend as much on it, on that resolution, and then, but we've got a final payment for approximately $3,800. So can you explain that to me, Chief Smith, through the superintendent?
Good evening,
Good
President Elliott, Vice President LeBron, Superintendent. It's a deduct, so that's money we're coming back to the district as part of the change order.
But we still have to pay them?
We're still going to pay them. We're still going to pay them the $3,800, but the negative $5,000 is a deduct in the contract.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that if that had not have been deducted, that would have been an additional $5,000 that would have been in final payments? Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
okay.
Exactly, yes. Okay, all right. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions related to resolutions 583 through 590? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Can I get a motion for resolutions 591
Motion.
through 597? Moved by Commissioner Simmons and seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to resolutions 591 through 597?
Indeed, yes.
All right. So
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons, please.
So, I don't know how this works, because I can't vote on 592, but I definitely have to acknowledge 592. I'm just so proud right now. I want to cry.
Take your time. That's what they say at church. Take your
I
time.
can't believe I just cried. That's okay.
Take your time.
But my journey with my son has been so difficult and so wonderful all at once. And part of that journey was here in this district. And hearing the students talk about some of their experiences early tonight regarding long-term suspension and those type of things, and just being a parent in this district, I don't just talk about having firsthand knowledge, I experienced it. And there are some wonderful people that will lean in with you and lift you up as you journey through with your child. And then there are other experiences that our parents have, and I have to acknowledge that, because I would be false if I didn't acknowledge that it occurs. And I remember those experiences, especially right now in this moment, because I am just so honored to see him, in spite of, return to this district and to serve as an educator. So that is not how I expected this to go, but I am so proud of him right now. So I just want to honor him. Thank you.
But you know, Commissioner Simmons, that's the story of a lot of our students. You know, they go through, but they come on around. And that's why we can never give up on any one of our students. I don't care what they may say about them, because you never know how they will turn around, and they do turn around. And so I just wanted to make sure that people who are listening, we're not giving up on not one of our students, because you never know who may turn around and have the kind of impact on our district that Cameron is having now working with the students. So I think Commissioner Adams, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to say hats off to Cameron, because his mom's always been supportive of my kids, and so I have to speak on this. Hats off to you, young man.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Powell?
if I could address Commissioner Simmons directly. The rules of conflict of interest that you might think would apply and bar you from voting only apply if you have a direct financial conflict of interest and would gain financially, such as if Cameron still lived in the house and paid you rent or something like that. So if that doesn't apply, I think you should feel free to vote on this resolution. I think people would understand perfectly that it doesn't really fall under the heading of conflict of interest, notwithstanding that he's a family member.
Is that the legal opinion, General Counsel?
I'm gonna just stay out and just
All right.
I will acknowledge
All right.
Commissioner Powell is right. There are some nuances, but I agree with abstaining at this.
As long as it goes through, y'all better vote for
You won't vote, but you'll lobby.
Commissioner was joking.
But Commissioner Simmons, let me just say this. When I talk to the students upon graduation, I tell them, make sure they break off their parents something when they get their first job. So I do say that. So Vice President LeBron?
Yeah, I just also want to welcome Cameron Simmons, and I just want to say too, he is a wonderful young man, and I do want to give kudos to his mom as well, because you saw a little snippet, but I know that the challenges and the struggle's been real But he's wonderfully successful even before this TA position. So I just want to put out that, you know, he's been out here doing his thing in this community and building his business up, and just a wonderful young man giving back. And so I'm very excited to see him come back into the district, as, you know, and teaching and being in front of kids and doing that work alongside them. And also inspiring our youth who may not feel that there's a way out and may feel hopelessness, right? And so that is the power that I think he's also going to bring hope to the youth that he impacts. And I know that he will impact many. So welcome Cam to the district officially, and we'll see you around definitely at School 28, which is where my girls went. So
Thank you. So all those in favor of resolutions 591 through 597?
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. All right, thank you. The next item of resolutions is the EPO East resolutions. Can I get a motion for resolutions 514 through 5, well, there's amendment of resolution 514, and then there's resolutions 598, 599, 600. And so can I get a motion for those resolutions? Moved by Vice President LeBron, seconded by Commissioner Patterson. Any questions or comments relating to resolutions 514 and then 598 through 600? Amy? Commissioner Malloy?
Commissioner Amy, it's all good. I just wanted to make a comment more than anything, because I think under the EPO agreement, we're bound to approve these. But when I look at a couple of these, some of what I'm seeing in here is work that includes to create or complete master schedules. And this is like marked as extra pay, but what I'm not understanding is that every other school in our district, our registrars, assistant principals, and principals are doing this work and spending just as much time, but during the school year, during vacation periods, et cetera, to do the same work. So I see some inequity in all of this, and I think this is essential work, but at the same time, it just seems like quite a few hours for the type of work that's being completed, because most schedules are finished prior to the end of the school year, with the exception of a few that still need to be done because of summer school or passing exams in August. It just seems to me that these schedules should already have been completed by June, and I think most are at other schools. So that's all I'll say. I will vote in favor of this because I think we are bound to. But I think this is a concern that we should start looking closely at.
Any other questions or comments related to these resolutions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye, except for 514, it's a no for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next,
Before,
Dr. Peluso?
President Elliott, before you get to the next one, I'd like to pull Resolution 603.
All right, so 603 is pulled. So is there a motion for Resolution 601, 602, 604?
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Vice President LeBron, seconded by, who seconded? Commissioner Malloy? All right. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 601, 602, 604? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And the next resolution is Finance and Procurement, Resolution 605. Can I get a motion for Resolution 605? Motion by Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 605? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Is there a motion for Resolution 606 and 607?
Motion.
Moved by Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments related to Resolutions 606 and 607? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a resolution for resolutions is there a motion for resolutions 608 through 610? Motion by Commissioner Patterson, is there a second? Seconded by Vice President LeBron. Any questions or comments related to resolutions 606 through 610? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Can I get a motion for resolution 611 and 612?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron, seconded by Commissioner Patterson. Any questions or comments related to resolutions 611 and 612? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for resolutions 613 through 621?
Motion.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy, seconded by Vice President LeBron. Any questions or comments related to resolutions 613 through 621? Vice President LeBron.
Yes, I just want to, it seems fitting because we're voting on the summer registrars for school innovation, and I see lots of resolutions here out of the school innovation office, but I just want to acknowledge the work that occurred last summer at Fisher. Fisher honored the district today and many of our students and had wonderful things to say, and they're preparing to welcome our students back for another summer of opportunity for them on campus. And we received the Community Partnership Award, and so that's why I was late. So congratulations to the school district and all their efforts. That is the award. President Elliott is holding it up, and so I just want to thank them for acknowledging all of the hard work of the school district, but Dan Hurley and his team, and safety and security was also mentioned, and the wonderful work that they did to work on campus, and all of the staff and teachers who provided education over the summer on campus. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Any other questions or comments related to resolution 613 through 621? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Can I get a motion for resolutions 622 and 623?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to resolutions 622 and 623? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for resolution 624 and 625? Moved by Commissioner Patterson, seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments related to resolution 624 and 625?
Yes,
Commissioner
ma'am.
Powell.
Thank you. Mr. Superintendent did mention it in his report about the safety allocation, but could you spend a little bit more time discussing this? $7 million is a lot of money. Did not go through Finance Committee, and I think it would behoove us all to hear an expansion of that discussion. This is essentially increasing the budget by pulling $7 million out of the fund balance. Is that correct?
Correct.
And for this, and that is for this school year.
So we are pulling $7 million out of the fund balance, and what we're going to do is secure that into capital projects for safety and security and projects around the district. How many we're going to be able to do is going to be based on an audit of what we could do with the funds, right? So there's some targeted campuses that we want to look at potential fencing, potential lighting at all of our campuses. But right now, we believe, based on some estimates that we have with our facilities team and our safety and security team, that we can get a lot of projects done that are causing some safety concerns that the unions brought forth during our meeting into projects. And the sooner we get this started, we could begin potentially stated approval and design, so we could also potentially get a large portion of this money back.
So you did indicate in your report that all 4 unions were at the table in this conversation. I guess my follow-on question would be, so what I'm hearing you say is you're not even really sure you can spend $7 million in this fiscal year.
Well, this will go to capital improvement and H funds, which will be okay to carry that forward.
So it's all capital improvement, essentially capital improvement funds?
Yes. Yep.
Vice President LeBron?
Yeah, I just want to put out there, just on record too, that I did have some conversations with the superintendent, and I've requested a matrix of where vendors, schools, what the vendor is going to be providing, what schools, what's the timeline, so that we can have a summary of that. But I just want to note that we too will also have to vote on each of these resolutions. So let's say there's vendor X for extra security, and that's $1 million. It would still come before the board through a vote of resolution. My only issue with that piece was that that's going to be really difficult for us to track through a resolution only, that this is part of that 7 million. So having that matrix with all of that information up front, knowing that the resolutions may not be ready because the contracts may not be ready to be executed yet, but having that understanding of where the superintendent and his team are going towards the spending of these dollars. So I just want to put that out there, and I know that the superintendent can speak to it, but we had that discussion as well about what that looks like, so that all the board members and the community is aware of how these dollars will be allocated to address safety and security all at once, and then we'll vote through them as he brings them forth for his team. Thank you.
Do you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to say that in the presentation, I want to make it clear that there will be a plan brought forth to this board to share how we're spending the $7 million, right? You know, so that it will be shared with this board.
Commissioner Malloy?
And if I missed this, I'm sorry, but how did you come up with the $7 million figure? That just seems like kind of blank check. Like, how did you come up with that figure?
So, you know, I'm going to ask, so I'm going to go Chief Operating Officer Mike Schmidt to come off, but we had some conversation with facilities and the safety and security team based on some knowledge of what we believe costs would be to fence in based on previous work we've done, to add gates, add lights. We have some sense of what those costs would be. And then, you know, we then set designs up, but if there's anything I'm missing, I'm sure Chief Schmidt will be able to expand.
No, not in terms of the context of the cost estimates. We chose a few schools to use as our example, kind of a jumping off point. It'll also very much mirror our capital improvement process, where you see the award, the design part of it, then you see the award part of it, and then you see the final payment. So not only do we have a structure on the front end of it about what we will spend the money on, but also that rhythm of very similar to how we work through the capital program. And what I believe would be probably easiest is for us to break out a $7 million, much like we do with our capital program, and show each part of that along the way. So by doing it in the capital format for most of it, it'll be very easily tracked. It'll be very easy to be accountable in terms of where that money would go. And we cannot do anything on the campus of state ed without approval of state ed. So all of our work must have a design part of it that goes to state ed for their approval before we can start and build fencing or anything else in place. So lighting changes, pretty more maintenance area wise, and then more complex structures like a fence around a particular campus or area would require that state ed approval and be considered capital work.
And because it's considered capital work, it's reimbursable by the state eventually, correct? Like 98%?
It would be eligible for reimbursement. I wouldn't want to speculate. That's for the state to decide how much it would be reimbursed, but I feel very comfortable in the sense that it would fall into our other reimbursement categories, and we would get most of the money back that we would use, as long as it would be eligible for that reimbursement.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions on these resolutions?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Powell?
On Resolution 625, the committed fund balance resolution, I'm not sure if this was our CFO Farr's idea or your own, Mr. Superintendent, but I think this is a far smarter way to allocate a contingency fund than what we've done in the past. What we've done in past budgets is to have a contingency line, which amounts to a slush fund, and I've always said that. But by putting it in a contingency, by putting it into a committed fund, it requires a resolution to pull it out. And in that way, all parties are invested in the decision-making and the outcome. So I think it's shocking that we didn't come to this solution sooner, but it's very elegant, and I like it a lot, and I wanted to call that out.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Any other questions to the superintendent? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of Resolution 624 and 625?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, the motions carry unanimously. Is there a motion for Resolution 626 through 629?
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Vice President LeBron, seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments related to these resolutions? Commissioner Powell, anything you'd like to share on these particular resolution? Well, I will look at Resolution 627 and 628, 629, if you wanted to have any comments on
No,
those.
I already named them all. They've all
Okay.
had an opportunity to be spoken to by the public, and we're finally here.
All right. Any other questions or comments relating to those resolutions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll go down under new business. I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Powell, who, with regard to the first reading and the student publications policy, and then we'll talk about the board meeting calendar.
Okay. First off, Madam Clerk, did we actually vote to, we did actually vote to refer back the student publications back to committee, right?
Yes, during your report, and
During
I
our
already
report. Very
noted
good.
that.
Thank you. That leaves only one policy that's in the second reading stage. That's policy 6500, the fund balance policy. Again, for the general public, you have an opportunity to speak to this policy if you have an opinion at our next board meeting, which is when we will be voting on it. If there are no questions about that policy from the dais, I can move on to new business. The policies that are that were voted out of committee this month include library selection, policy 4513. Any questions on that? Hearing none. Student policy goals, policy 5000. The students effectively wrote this one themselves, and it's really exciting to see their engagement on that. Policy 5191, students with HIV-related illness policy. And we're not going, and we've already pulled student publications out of the list, so that completes the list.
All right, and I apologize because I think I skipped over the second reading. I went right to the first reading,
No,
I think.
yeah, I covered that first. Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right. So, with regard to the, do we need a motion to send the publication back to the committee? We've done that
You did
already?
that during the policy
Okay,
report.
all right. And then the board meeting calendar, we need to have a motion for the board meeting calendar?
Not quite yet. Not quite yet. So this is the proposed draft, and it follows mostly what we've done this current year.
Okay.
With the exception of ESA meetings during the budget season. We kept them on their regular Tuesday cycle with the intention of moving budget items to Wednesday. So this is just being put out here before board members this month for you all to consider and make any recommendations, and then we would have a final draft come forward in the May business meeting for a final vote.
So any questions on the calendar at this point?
I'm sorry, President, if I could just offer one more point of clarification.
Okay.
So page 1 of this document is the already approved school calendar for next year. So it's really page 2 that we're looking at, which is just
Okay.
our committee meetings.
All right. Any questions about page 2 at this meeting? I mean, we can also offer questions for in May. Vice President LeBron?
Yeah, so before we get to the voting, I know we're looking at it, the only request I have is that we ensure that we're looking, that we don't conflict with any holidays, any conflicts of interest that we can just double check, because in the past we have had calendars that we pass for ourselves, and then there are like some potential conflicts of interest. And I know we have the flexibility of changing and then notifying the public, but it's always good if we have it up front in a year in advance and we know like that's just not going to be realistic. So I just want to put that out there.
So that, the what is that? The eclipse, is that we've taken into consideration the eclipse?
I think we're going to be
for that
closed that day.
What day is that?
April, actually,
8th?
I
Okay.
have some cards here if folks would like a commemorating card, but it is going to be April 8th, 2024, and you can see the eclipse at 3:20 p.m. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. So we'll be able to vote on it next month, and of course, you can still ask questions next month on it. And so that seems to be the last thing on the agenda, other than to complete the board meeting survey. And so I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All right, Vice President LeBron, seconded by, who seconded? By Commissioner Malloy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you soon.